Hi. You might have seen Acroyoga videos on social media. They look amazing, don't they? You might be curious about trying it out, but you might not have any friends who can tell you what it's like to get into Acroyoga. So I want to tell you what the typical progression looks like of someone who starts out in Acroyoga. The majority of people, they try Acroyoga once, maybe a friend showed them, maybe they go to a class and they don't continue on. And typically the very first class people learn usually two poses. One is called bird, which is very similar to airplane. Airplane is like what you do with little kids. And like if I were the base or person on the ground, I put my feet up and you go on top of my feet like Superman. Throne is similar, but instead of you being on top like Superman, it just kind of like sit on my feet, like the queen or a king. And most people who go for the first class, that's what you're likely going to encounter. There's some other skills that are appropriate for complete novices, but this is what most typically people do, and they didn't really learn to teach complete beginners something else. But people might not consciously pay attention to is, in that first exposure, people learn a lot about trust. It depends a little bit on people. Some people have a harder time to trust other people. In my Acroyoga learning labs, I usually do like an exercise where someone's lying down and they put their feet here. And then as a fly, I'm just going to lean forward a little bit. And they're going to resist with their feet pushing back. And then they're going to slowly lower me forward and back. I call it bird receiving because we're learning how to receive someone into bird pose. And for some people, it just to go like an inch forward and to trust another person to hold them up, it takes a lot of learning. Maybe the first hour we just work on, trusting another person. And letting go control is like another big thing. A lot of times you notice flyers, they kind of want to control everything. But how Acroyoga works is you have the base, person on the ground, doing the balancing, and they fly in the air, they have to hold their shape, like they have to be, like I tighten my body. The reason is if both try to balance, it creates this echo chamber of people doing little, things to try to balance and it just comes down. And so like letting go of control can be really hard for people to learn. So people often see the videos and think it's like purely physical what they have to learn, but there's a lot of these kind of psychological learning or learning communication skills. So you coordinate with someone else. So you speak up and you're not quiet, like, you're gonna fall if the other person doesn't do this. I don't want to say it and you fall, you have to learn to speak up. So in the very beginning, for a lot of people, it can be like these psychological skills that have to be learned. So let's say you're actually one of the fewer people who comes back for a second and third class. You've learned the bird thing, you've learned the throne thing, you've kind of like learned to hold body tension as a flyer, and those things. Like the next big milestone is to learn something called side star. And in yoga there's a pose called half moon. It's like you're on one leg and you're kind of balancing the thing on the sides. A similar thing is in Acroyoga, it's called side star. You're in a similar pose, but you have the basis foot here so that you get lifted up into the air entirely. And this is a milestone because usually all things like bird and throne, They're pretty easy to learn. If you're kind of coordinated, in shape, and you have good guidance, you might pick them all up on the first try, but definitely on the third or fourth. With Side Star, it took me multiple sessions to learn it, because it requires a lot more balance skills, coordination, so that's a big deal. The third big rite of passage is to learn Star. Side Star versus Star. Star is, the flyer is head over. So imagine I'm head over and I have my base's feet under my shoulders and we're kind of connected hands. When I experienced the first time, I thought it was batshit crazy to have someone upside down on top of me. And like a teacher put me in the same pose and was like, hey, now let's do it without hands. I was like, oh my god, no hands. And she's like doing it to me. It's very mind expanding. It's like, it feels like you shatter a certain reality once you arrive at Star. And then the next big thing is called Ninja Star. There are a lot of stars involved. Ninja Star is a washing machine compared to simply a pose. A washing machine is if you move from pose A to pose B, pose C, and you end up back in pose A, so you can keep going through it again and you have the cycle. And if you're a flyer, you might feel like you're in a washing machine and you're being spun around. Ninja Star is typically the first proper washing machine people learn. It's a little hard to demonstrate by myself, but there are videos. And I think after Ninja Star, people's journeys tend to become more individualistic. It's like, I think the big rite of passages are like Bird Throne, Side Star, Star, Ninja Star. And in between all these things, you might learn lots of like little things, but they're not very common between people. They might not make much of a... They might not be big progressions in your learning. Like, for example, Side Star is a big progression because once you have Side Star down, it opens up a lot of things you can do. Similar, once you have Star down, it opens up a lot of things. Once you do your first washing machine, like Ninja Star, you're at a level where you can actually do transitions pretty well and you can start doing lots of machines. So I thought that was like a little interesting thing. It also gives you a roadmap if you've been coming for a while. Like, let's say you've been coming for a few months, it gives you a little idea of where you are in the journey, and obviously at the top there's no end. Maybe one day you're at the very top, but then there's no top either because you're at the place where you can innovate the next stuff.